This tank is the ELC Even 90. This is a French Tier 8 light tank. And the map is Epic Normandy from the Frontline game mode. Now, my idea with taking out this tank is I want to be a leader for my team, so we need to cap in order to advance. And most people don't understand that, or they're afraid to cap. So I decided I would try to cap. And my idea was to try to go with a very small tank that would be difficult to spot, difficult to snipe at. So I took this tank out for a spin to see if I could sit it on the cap without being noticed. Obviously, I was noticed, but let's see how long it takes before they finish me off. So this is a decent position. You do have to worry about snipers from out in that direction. And it looks like they may have forgotten about me. Oh, he's not paying attention. Very interesting. So basically what I've learned is that it is possible to bring this little tiny tank out at the start of the game and take up a good hidden position. The other thing I could do is I could run around in circles. You know, it's difficult to hit a tank that's moving quickly because most of the enemy tanks are going to be a long distance away. But this is another alternative position that I could use. You know, people that are off in the distance, like there's an M4190 GF up on the sniping hill. He's never going to spot me. He's outside of my spotting range. The tanks are either too far or they're blocked by solid objects. So he knows that I'm here, but he doesn't know if I'm here or where exactly I am. So I do have to be wary about this T-69. That's why it's very important to have allies that understand what's going on in the game. So basically, I was able to capture, obviously it wasn't by myself, but I proved that the strategy works. So now we know for Cap A, you can cap it using a tiny tank with good camouflage. Now at this point, I know that the Type 59 is probably not going to come after me, so I'm going to sit here and wait till I reload. He doesn't know that I'm not reloaded. He's probably going to be dead by the time I go after him. But he's an easy target for me. I could take him out easily.
Zone C has been captured. Extra time has been added.
And you'll notice that I went out before I was completely reloaded.
Heavy artillery is ready.
This tank is the ELC Even 90. This is a French Tier 8 light tank. The map is Epic Normandy. On this particular spawn, we're about even. There's about 6 per team. We need to get Cap F going. And I figured, okay, I'm going to get a little tiny tank, and I'm going to see if I can sneak my way through and make it to that base without being spotted, and maybe I'll be able to get on that base and start running that cap timer. If I do, we'll get an extra couple minutes to play the game, and hopefully it will bring us to victory. So I got this little sneaky tank. I'm heading up with the path that I think is furthest from view of the enemy. It's got something solid on my left and distant on the right. It looks like I was spotted. I'm going to keep on going, try to get to that base. You'll notice that there's an enemy ELC Even 90. I was worried about him at first, but I think I followed his trajectory and he took a different path, which showed that he wasn't coming in my direction. So I made it over to here and I said, okay, now I got to find where do I park? I have absolutely no idea where to park. I took a look on the south and the Defender was no threat to me. Don't really see a threat in the north. All I'm going to do is just sit here. The problem is it takes me 2 minutes to sit here, more than 2 minutes. But I don't have enough time to cap this by myself. I need somebody else to get on this base in order to run that timer, and there's no one nearby. So we got an additional 2 minutes because they captured Zone D. I have enough time to do it by myself. We outnumbered 2-1 the enemy. The Defender was just taken out of the game. We should have no problem capturing this. And what I did was I picked a fast, light tank so I could get to the base as quickly as possible, so I could get that counter running as quickly as possible. I took advantage of the fact that there's not a lot of enemy tanks here. There's only 4 that are spawned in this zone. We're 2-1 on them. We were even when we started out. My allies did some of the killing. I went in and got the capture going. So now we got 25 seconds left. I got hit by artillery. So someone... It looks like we got a couple tanks that dropped artillery on me. There was definitely more than one. They guessed, oh, you know what? Maybe I was last spotted. There was a little dot in that area. And I think the reason why they didn't hit me directly was because they just assumed I was on the other side of the house. Okay, so that was a successful capture. And I got leveled up to captain. This tank is the ELC Even 90. This is a French Tier 8 light tank. And the map is Epic Normandy from the Frontline game mode. Now, one thing that I noticed when I came out to this repair area is that it didn't replenish the ammo in my magazine. So when I went through the repair zone and the resupply, it may have resupplied my ammo that's in the racks, but I only had 2 out of 3 in the magazine that were filled. Now, with this type of a map, we're talking about Zone D on Epic Normandy. This is a great map for hit and run. You get an autoloader or a light tank, and you've got all these slopes, and the enemy's going to be on the other side of the slope because they don't want to get hit. And what you do is you hover around them, wait till you're reloaded, watch their gun, see where they're pointing, and when you see that they're vulnerable, you go in after them. You can see I'm looking to do an artillery strike or an air strike on that tank. It's going to land right now. I did 78 damage with my airstrike, but somebody else took him out of the game. This tank is very underpowered, so it's very difficult to get it up and going, to climb hills, to knock over objects. Doesn't have a lot of power at all. The acceleration is very poor. So I see an isolated tank over here. I'm going to look to see, is there a way that I can get down and get behind him and just start taking shots at him? Well, he obviously has a friend with him. So he's not really an easy target, but I think I could have taken a shot at him. So I'm going to look for another target. I see this M41 over here. He's all by himself. Relatively low on hit points. Out of the game. So I'm looking for another target that I can go after. Okay, so here's another chance I could get behind that T-44, which is right there on my left. Now, this is obviously, you can see what my ally is doing. He's pushing me. And I couldn't really do anything except for wait for him to keep on pushing me. That's really improper playstyle. And you notice that he didn't stop until after I was gone. I don't think he did that by accident. Maybe he did. It's always possible. Well, actually, now he says he didn't see me. But that's one of the funny things that happened in the game. I'm sure that he didn't see me. I mean, it's a strong possibility. So I see a easy target over here. Now I'm looking to get, obviously, a hiding place behind some rocks. Almost flipped my tank. I probably should have stayed right there. I wasn't paying attention well enough as to what was going on. Now I need to go for repairs. I said that the guy was an easy target, but what I meant was he's an easy target if I surprise him and get behind him. But because he came after me, he wasn't such an easy target, especially since the gun on this tank is not very good. It doesn't penetrate that well. This tank is not that fun to play unless if you're gonna sit in one spot and be a passive scout. It's the perfect passive scout. Very difficult to find. Can sneak around the battlefield. Stealth is its strong point. It's the stealthiest tank in the higher tiers in the game. And the issue with the gun, I don't have full faith in the gun, and a lot of people will tell you that the gun is terrible. However, I will say that I have effectively used that gun to take out heavy tanks before. So don't give up on it completely. You just have to learn how to use it properly. I've got 1,200 damage in this game and 1,900 spotting damage. As you can see, I'm not in a good position right now. I did have to go back for repairs, but what I'm probably going to do now is try to come up with a plan to get on that base, to start capping the base, and use my miniature tank to make it difficult for the enemy to shoot at me. So what I'm going to do is sneak onto that base. There's the base right there. And, you know, there's a couple of ways that you can park. You have to figure out which one. You know, you got to check on the right to see if anybody can hit me from the right. Worried about the T-32 in front of me. Nobody on the right can shoot at me. Nobody on the left can shoot at me. So there's that T-32. Absolutely, I will shoot at him if he's vulnerable. Lots of ricochets. So I did 414 damage to that tank. It's like I said, the gun is hit and miss. Sometimes it'll do well, sometimes it won't. Drop some artillery on him. You really got to do it when he's stationary, otherwise you might be wasting your artillery. Let's see if it hits him. Oh, it does. So he was taken out of the game, and I'm spotted, so they know I'm here. I got to help my ally, make sure my ally stays alive.
Zone F has been captured. Extra time has been added.
You really want your allies to get those kills. Trust your allies. Trust your allies. Let your ally kill that tank. Let your ally kill that tank. Okay, now I'm safe. Now we got another one. You see, now that I'm stunned, it's a little bit difficult to run. There's nothing to hide behind, and I can't get off the cap. I got to stay on the cap. And there's danger everywhere. And obviously the other T-32 is a beginner player. One of my allies took him out of the game. The T-28 prototype took him out of the game. Oh, now we got more trouble. 10 seconds left. Now that's where I made a mistake. To be honest, because of what happens with the replay, I don't know who killed me. Maybe if you rewind, it'll show who killed me. But that's what I was talking about when I said rely on your allies. I thought, okay, I've got a second left. I have no choice. I got to perhaps take a shot at this guy. But what you really want to do is let your allies kill. You saw that my allies defended me and killed, I don't know, perhaps 3 or 4 different tanks that were trying to kill me. And that last one, as far as I know, made it alive. This tank is the T-92. This is an American Tier 8 light tank. And the map is Epic Normandy from the Frontline game mode. Now, I was just playing with the ELC Even 90, and I was a second away from capping D, and somebody shot me. It was tanks were coming in like crazy to try and kill me. So I said, okay, I can't go out with the ELC. What's my next smallest tank? I'm going to try with the T-92. I almost made it with that ELC, and the enemy suffered heavy losses trying to reset me. They must have lost like 5 tanks coming after me. So I said, okay, I'm taking out this tank. Obviously, I just missed the turn, you know, still learning the maps. And I'm going to try the same technique, get a little tiny tank, which has good camouflage. It's going to be difficult for them to see from a distance. Very fast and nimble, so they'll have to chase after me a little if they want to kill me, if they come in close. But I'm going to get right here on this cap, check the right flank and the left flank, make sure I'm safe. Hopefully they won't know that I'm here. If they know where you are, then they can hit you with the artillery, with the airstrikes, etc. There you can see there was an artillery strike right there. Yeah, I was probably spotted, so he probably knows that I'm in that position. However, he needs to kill me to reset the cap. He did such a small amount of damage. He only did 53 damage. It wasn't enough to take me out of the game. So we're still going to be on this cap. We only need a few more seconds, and we cap this thing.
Air Scout is ready. We have captured Zone D.
Okay.
You have been promoted.
Now, whenever we cap, I always remind my team to use the repair and the resupply facilities. I type it in chat. I said, you know, remember to use the repair facilities, and you'll see it. You'll see me ping it on the map to remind people this guy's easy to take out. I did 156 damage on him, but it wasn't enough to take him out of the game. Okay, so I'm going to remind my team, I'm pinging the map to remind my team to use the repair facility. And no matter how many hit points I have, I'm going to go unless obviously there's an extreme danger to going.
Objective 4 reached.
Now would be a good time to use an artillery strike.
Objective 3.
Now you might wonder, when do you use artillery strike? When do you use the airstrike? If you think that the object is going to stay in one position, use the artillery strike. If you think he's going to move, use the airstrike. And in terms of the arrow, I think that the arrow allows you to hit targets that are behind objects. So if they're behind the building, you probably want the arrow on the back side of the building and not aimed through the building. Remember, I'm very close to the repair base, so I'm not that worried about taking damage. And even though I'm in a light tank, I really want to just kill as many tanks as I can. So I'm not concerned about spotting and all that stuff. I just want to do damage to tanks. Usually I'm going to do 2 shots and then back up in case he shoots it back at me, which he did. He must have shot for the bush, thinking that I was in the bush.
Objective 5 reached.
Now remember, you can hit tab to see all the players on your team and the enemy team that are in the game. And right now we outnumber the enemy 2-1. I got 30 seconds left before I can repair. So now one of the strategies is to just sit here and say, okay, I'm going to wait 30 seconds. Oh, well, that's the end of the game. We won. This tank is the VK100-01P. This is a German Tier 8 heavy tank, and the map is Epic Normandy from the Frontline game mode. The reason why I chose this tank is because the spawn point is relatively near to the base, and we really need a heavily armored tank to sit on that cap to start running the cap timer. This tank has really good armor. It's one of the best armored tanks that I have for Tier 8. The gun's okay, and we're doing pretty good. We've got decent control, but we don't have people sitting on the cap. It looks like we've got perhaps 1 tank on the cap, but we really should have 3 on the cap. Having 3 on the cap is the most painless option. The clock timer will run 3 times as quickly, and we'll move on to the next capture point faster, and we'll have more time to finish the ultimate objective. So people haven't understood yet the importance of getting on that cap as quickly as possible. Obviously, it's taking me a long time to get there, but I will get there.
Our reinforcements have arrived.
The way that I play the game is I usually take the job that nobody else wants to do. And I know that it's necessary to cap, so that's why I do it. It's a necessary part of the game. I'd rather be the one who caps than sit here shouting at people, you know, begging them to get on the cap, because they never do. So we got 3 people on the cap. It's going to go from 42 down to 26 seconds. So we cut the time in half. And I've got my full health. You notice I chased him down and didn't even fire my gun. Obviously, they could throw an artillery strike against me, but it's unlikely to take me out of the game.
Captured Zone B.
Okay, so we
Time has been added.
captured Zone B, and we got extra time. In addition to that, I did it 26 seconds faster than if we had done it with only 1 or 2 tanks.
Heavy artillery is ready.
Now, basically what I'm doing is I'm using my artillery strike. I'm looking for a stationary enemy tank. It looks like it's not going to be easy to find because the enemy is fleeing from our zone. So what the mistake that I'm making is I should be looking at the other zones where I'm on B. I should be looking at A and C. I found a stationary tank, which was at T-32, and I laid an artillery strike on him. Let's see what happens. Doesn't say that any damage was done. He did start moving before the artillery drop was made. Now, because we just won this zone and my team is starting to advance, I'm reminding them in chat that they should go to the repair facilities. And I also ping on the mini-map the repair facilities so they know that they should, to remind them that they should repair. Now, if you look over here, you're going to notice that we have twice as many tanks as the enemy does. The enemy only has 5 tanks in the game. What does that tell you? We could easily rush to the E base and capture, no problem. We'll be 2-on-1. Will our team do it? I don't know. We're going to see. So basically what you do is you press the tab key. You can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have 13 tanks and they have 5. And it looks like 2 of our tanks left the zone. So we were almost 3-1. We got a 2-1 advantage minimum. We got some more tanks that are leaving the zone. And I'm reminding my team to capture E. What they don't understand, there's only 5 enemy tanks, and we've got 10 or 11 on our side. We should be rushing that cap. That means that the fastest tanks should be on that cap already, but they're not. We've got a T-44 rental that's sitting on the east, not getting there fast enough. The Progetto 46, he's not heading towards the cap. Got a lot of tanks that are too preoccupied with the A zone. So we don't have, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got 7 or 8 going to the E zone where we had a 2-1, more than 2-1 advantage, and we're not taking advantage of it. You can see that all this time that I've been talking, we still don't have anyone near the base. They're trying to take up defensive positions and sniping positions. Now some enemy tanks are showing up. We got an IS-3. He's no match for our 7 or 8 tanks. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 tanks. That IS-3 is no match for us 11 tanks. And the T-32. The Scorpion on the enemy team and the tank with him, they're not in good, okay, they just came out again. But it's still, it's like 8 or 9 tanks against 4. We should easily defeat them. We are knocking their health points down. But nobody on my team has yet gone to the cap. And I'm probably the slowest tank on the team, and I just as well might be the first one to get there. So it goes to show you that people are completely unaware of how to play the game. And look at all the trouble these tanks are going to cause for me. You could say that at this point I'm the only hope for my team. My team should be doing everything to ensure that I get on that cap. Now, because I haven't played the game in over a year, and obviously the maps may have changed, you have to figure out where's the solid cover, where the Progetto 46 is. That's the best place to be. Nobody's going to be able to hit us if we're on that side. You don't want to be in the south, so I'm going to be heading towards the Progetto, take up a position where I should be safe. I waited too long to shoot at that tank, unfortunately. So I got a ricochet when I could have done some damage. Now that artillery is going to be a pain in my butt, isn't he? So obviously I should get closer to the house. I know that artillery is going to going to fire at me again. But at the same time, I want to be able to take shots at enemy tanks that expose themselves. For example, if I reverse, maybe I can hit that T-28 prototype. We got 1:25 to cap. And look, I'm going to pull up this map. Okay, so now the enemy has brought more people into our side, but we still outnumber them. We have one person spawning, respawning, and they've got 2 people respawning. If you look on the mini-map, you're going to notice that we control the southern part of Zone E. We've got a Defender behind me, a WZ. I don't know what those other tanks are, but they just have to move a little north. I was able to do it. I'm pretty slow. They need to understand and learn that they have to do this to win the game. So finally we got this M41 that showed up. Okay, so now we've got these tanks showing up, but it really is too late. Too slow. Would have been nice if they were all here. If they were here sooner, we could have saved an extra 30 seconds or 45 seconds, and we would have had that much more time to try to win the game. Let's see if we do some damage to that WZ. So I did 23 damage to the WZ with the artillery strike. So we did capture the base. You notice it says that I'm inspired. What that means is that one of my allies used the combat reserve, which increases your crew skills by 10%. So now I'm going to slowly advance to the next sector. This tank is a Chrysler GF. This is an American Tier 8 heavy tank. The map is Epic Normandy from the Frontline game mode. When you're on the coast, A, B, or C, and you're losing and the enemy is overwhelming you, go out with a heavily armored tank. A heavily armored tank is going to last longer in the game. It's going to be more difficult for the enemy to kill it. So that's why you want to roll out with the heavily armored tank. If you saw the video where I talked about an Alpine Tiger that disappeared suddenly, if you saw that video, there he is. I verified it. I went over here. It's the same player. He had respawned and he came back to this position at the same time that I was respawning and coming back to my position. So you want, if you're losing on the coast, you really want to have heavy tanks that are heavily armored. In fact, I would say if you knew that you were spawning on the coast, A, B, or C, and you're attacking, always come in with a heavy tank. The heavy armor will keep you in the game, make it more difficult for the enemy to reset the cap. And you don't have to travel very far. You really only have to travel a short distance. So I decided that I was going to try and cap. I took up this position. We've got the usual suspects over here. Now, the Progetto 46, he's not as big of a threat as the IS-6 was that was sniping me from that location earlier. Now we've got artillery as a threat because artillery could easily take a shot at me. You'll notice that I've moved to a different position from where I was last spotted. And I think there's going to be incoming artillery fire on my previous position. So this is somewhat of a decent position. You don't have to sit here. You've got other choices. Or maybe I was worried about artillery fire. I thought there was a good chance that there would be artillery fire, which is why I moved to this position. I guess there was none. So from this position, I'm obviously capping. We're at about 40% capped. That ISU is going to get hammered with artillery fire. But as long as he stays alive, he keeps all of his capture points. In order to reset his capture points, you got to kill him. So the ideal thing to do is just sit here, look at that map. You can see that we're doing really good. Most of the enemy just isn't here. We've got the enemy way outnumbered. We're easily going to cap on B. It would be nice if all of my allies got on B. We've got how many? 4 of us. I really think that the best strategy is for the entire team to just all go to the capture point immediately at the beginning of the game. So when I have downtime, I like to use my artillery. Looking for a tank that isn't moving. So here's one right here. And I dropped it on him, even though it's in another zone. It's in Zone D. So if you're on the coast, super heavy tanks are ideal. You want that armor. You want to stay in the game. When you move to different zones, different tanks, you need different tanks depending on what you're doing. For close combat, you need well-armored tanks. When you're playing at a distance, you're going to want tank destroyers. And when you are playing over a big open field where you have to travel a long distance, you want light tanks or perhaps medium tanks. So now at this point, I actually was making the wrong decision. I thought that I would go over to help my allies, but I don't think it's going to work out here. Now, basically what happened was, because people didn't understand the capping philosophy, we didn't cap enough zones, so I think we're going to run out of time. You know, we got 20 seconds left. The only way that we're going to win this game, or we're going to continue this game, is if everybody at cap point C gets on the cap. Now, let's look at cap point C. These are the tanks in C, which includes me. We've got one that is waiting to respawn. They have two that are waiting to respawn. I'm going to count the number that are on the field. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. My team has 13 out of 14 tanks on the field. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And they have 9 out of 11. So we have about 25% or 30% more tanks than they do. And my allies failed to get on that cap. Now they're starting to head for that cap, but there's so many of them. If you look at where it says C, at the lower right, there's so many tanks that are nowhere near the cap. Well, they're near the cap, but they're nowhere near getting onto the cap. And they're really going to fail. In 10 seconds, they're not going to win the game. They didn't understand how important it was to get on that cap. Excuse me. Okay, so now there is a feature in the game called overtime. And the overtime in this case was 1 minute and 30 seconds. And what that means is that if you have a player who is on the cap when time runs out, you may go into overtime. There might be other conditions that set overtime, but I don't remember what they are. So we did get an overtime, which means we're probably going to finish capping that out, and we're probably going to continue on with this game. This tank is the ELC Even 90. This is a French Tier 8 light tank. The map is Epic Normandy. We've got 1 minute left. And my idea was to get onto E as quickly as possible and use this miniature size of my tank. First, I got to evade this WZ-132. Hope he doesn't see me. And it looks like he didn't. But I'm going to shoot at him because we got some extra time. Okay, so let's head for that cap. We got bad guys all over the place. And I am going to make it, I think, right on to the base. So my idea was just to make a mad rush for base E and start capping it. And there's been times when this has worked, and there's been times when it hasn't. So I got pretty close. Unfortunately, the ISU did snipe me. Let's see. Okay, so we can't view what happened, but I did get close, and obviously if you watch the videos, you're going to see the success and the fails. This one was a fail. This tank is the ELC Even 90. This is a French Tier 8 light tank. The map is Epic Normandy in the Frontline game mode. Now, my theory with this tank is if you put a small enough tank on the base, it will be difficult for the enemy to shoot at it because you'll be able to hide easily. And the reason why I'm doing it in this particular game is because I had an amazing game where I had a perfect position. Nobody was able to hit me. And I wanted to see if I could do it on this map also. So the tactic that works on one map might not work on another map. So the question is, where do you sit with this little tiny tank that nobody can hit you. And unfortunately, it's going to cost me my life trying to figure that out. So I decided to go to this position to see if I could park here.
Zone A contested.
See how, go a little low. But all they're going to do is they're going to come after me and they're going to kill me at some point. They know I'm here. He's not, I don't think. But he will. Now I got a problem. If I can't secure that position, then I can't win the cap. So that was a failed tactic.
Been promoted.
However, I will have my revenge. I would like to point something out. The failure is not 100% mine. The enemy has the perfect positions to snipe against the position that I was trying. The problem is my allies don't understand what what it means to have map awareness, because that ISB should not be there able to snipe at our entire base whenever he wants. Somebody should go take him out. And what I actually did when I spawned in, I got an autoloader and I went running after him. I went around the long way to get behind him. But when I got there, there was another tank with him. There were 2 tanks that I had to go up against. So it's very important for you to understand when you play this game that you can't let the enemy be on your side of the territory, especially when you're trying to cap. You have to, it's not just shoot randomly at tanks. You've got to keep map control.
Capture zones to reach the main objective.
This tank is the Chrysler GF. This is an American Tier 8 heavy tank. The map is Epic Normandy from the Frontline game mode. Now, in this particular game, I'm on the attacking team. And I have a strategy which is to cap as quickly as possible. And unfortunately, other players haven't figured this strategy out yet, so they just don't do it. And many players will just never cap. The game will run out. They won't even try to cap. And because my allies won't do it, I'm going to do it. I will play whatever aspect of the game needs to be played in order for the game to progress and to win. And capping is one of the tactics you have to do when you assault. Defending the cap is what you have to do, obviously, when you're defending. If you take a little bit to the right over here, that's a path you want to know about, because if enemy tanks have shown up, like that T-34 just showed up, you might want to go that way, because you can get a little bit more cover, less likely to be shot at. It's a safer route. So there's a lot of different ways that you can defend this cap. I'm going to show you this particular one that I tried. Basically what I do is I come over here with a strongly armored tank, and it's really not going to work out. And the reason why is because the enemy is going to set me up with a crossfire, and it's already been done. You've got over here, you've got the ISB-6, and in front of me, you've got the Ferdinand. So right there, they're going to nullify this position. And it's going to be very painful and difficult, but I won't be able to cap from this position. So let's see what happens. So one thing I need to do is make sure that that IS-6 can't damage me, and I got to make sure that the Ferdinand can't damage me. And I will be able to damage the Ferdinand, but the question is, in the trade that we're going to do, who's going to win? Unfortunately, he's going to win. I penetrated him twice. He penetrated me twice. He's almost a one-shot. Now I'm getting hit from the IS-6 from behind. And that was it. And the IS-6 did fire an HE round, which means he knew that he wasn't going to be able to penetrate me.